All right, welcome everyone. Just getting videos turned on and get settled in here. Appreciate everyone joining. Let me see how many we have. So we have 18 on so far. That's great. Why don't everyone drop in the chat where you're joining in from this morning? I'd love to see where everyone's at. Also, maybe comment if you already own short-term rentals, and if so, what market are you in? We got Denver, Oklahoma. Ashley, John, thanks for joining. Northern New Jersey. It's cold, I'm sure, up there. Snow on the ground. Asheville, Santa Barbara. Probably not cold there. Thanks for joining, Scott, Cody. Good. South Florida. Yep, you're here with me. So nice and warm, Scott. It's good to have you. Georgia STRs in the Smokies. Great, Susanna. So yeah, a lot of good representation across the country. A lot of different markets. Scott from Santa Barbara, looks like you're the furthest away, so thanks for getting up and joining first thing this morning. All right, we'll give another minute here and let just get some people joined in. And then next question for everyone is raise your hand or comment yes if you're planning on making a STR purchase somewhere. It doesn't have to be in Bradenton, but if you're planning on making a purchase somewhere this year and adding to your portfolio. And then today we'll be talking about why maybe Bradenton might be a good spot, but you might find out after our call that it's not a good spot for you, and we'll take it off the list. So, but either way, we'll provide a lot of good information. So we've got a lot of people that are planning on purchasing. So hopefully this will be a good and productive time this morning. So have some content and some slides that we're going to go through. And then at the end, we'll open it up for some Q&A. So feel free to pop your questions into either the Q&A or into the chat. Q&A might be a better place to drop those questions so we can keep them a little bit more organized. So let me get queued up here and we'll get into it. Okay, I think we're set. All right, so today we're going to be talking about, why Bradenton is at the top of the charts. If you pay attention to AirDNA, you saw in 2024 that Bradenton or Sarasota was on their top markets to invest. For 2025, STR Insights has Bradenton listed as the number 10 market to invest. So what's driving that? Why do people visit Bradenton? Raise your hand. Let me know. Has anyone heard of Bradenton before? Prior to seeing it on a list, did you know where Bradenton was at? It'd be interesting to know because it's not necessarily a well-known place, but it's around a lot of well-known areas and beaches. So we're going to talk about how we can unlock that and take advantage of the market that we have. My name is Rich Clover. I'm a savvy STR agent and the exclusive agent for Bradenton as well as Sarasota, St. Pete, and some of what we call the Florida Sun Coast, Clearwater down through Sarasota and Venice. Today we're going to be touching specifically on Bradenton. In my opinion, it is the best market within that Florida Sun Coast, and we'll touch base on why that might be. So let's just kick off with why Bradenton. Partially, one of the big things that does have a high demand for vacation rentals. So there's a lot of tourism and a lot of travelers coming in because we are a year-round tourism market. We are in that subtropical climate here. Our local beach is Anna Maria Island, which is the city of Anna Maria. It's Bradenton Beach and it's Holmes Beach. We also are 30 minutes from Siesta Key, which is a nationally ranked, it's always got that top beach in the US moniker to it. I think they pay for that. But it's a beautiful beach and we're 30 minutes from there. So a lot of our guests that come in kind of do the beach hopping where they'll go out to Anna Maria Island one day, maybe the next day they go down to Siesta Key, and they even spend a day and go up to St. Pete Beach or Clearwater. So a lot of great beaches in the area. And because we're in that subtropical climate, you can really go to the beach year round. Now, this January was our cold front came through, so we had 2 or 3 weeks where our highs were like 55 to 58, maybe 60 degrees and like 40s in the morning. Um, I would take that year round, honestly. But so year round, people are coming in and getting in the beach. Today, high of 82. There are going to be people in the water. Beaches are busy, and they're coming year round for that. And we'll talk about what that might look like as well. Because from the year-round perspective, we get our best month of the year is March. So we get a very heavy spring break presence. We have a lot of travelers coming in from Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, a lot of those northern Midwestern states, a lot from the Northeast. We'll even get some people coming in from the West. And so this time of year, people are getting on airplanes. They're flying into Tampa. They're flying into the Sarasota airport and they are coming to spend time at our beach. In the summer, that shifts a little bit where it probably goes about 50-50, where we get a lot more people driving in for their summer vacation, either from Florida. Surprisingly, we get a lot of people driving over from Miami area to come and visit our beaches. And then we'll still get about another 50% that are still still flying in from out of state markets. And then we also have a large international travel contingency as well. So it is an international market where we do get travelers from all over the place. In addition to that, we have multiple traffic drivers. We talked about the beach. That's the number one traffic driver that brings people to our area. The additional traffic drivers, there's a large sports tourism industry in Bradenton/Manatee County. You've probably heard of the IMG Academy. The IMG Academy is a large international sports training institute. They kind of got started with doing individual tennis, and a lot of the major tennis players have come through IMG Academy. LPGA, Nelly Corda is one of the top number one LPGA golfers in America or in the world. She came through and attended the IMG Academy. And today they have a large contingent of sports programs. And because they have all of those programs, baseball teams, football teams, soccer, lacrosse, track and field, golf, those families are coming in throughout the year to visit their kids because it is a boarding type school. Students live on campus. High school age kids are living on campus and their families are coming in. So that's bringing people into the area to visit, do camps at IMG. Summer camps are huge. But then additionally, because IMG has all of these facilities, basketball, they have, I think, 6 large baseball fields on their complex, football, soccer fields. They routinely will host national tournaments, bringing in sports teams from across the country for these tournaments. So we're hosting IMG tournament guests at least once a month, and sometimes more than that. And these aren't just like a Saturday, Sunday tournament. People are flying in. So it typically is like a Wednesday through Sunday, sometimes a Tuesday through Sunday. And so these happen year round. And so it's just another one of those traffic drivers that boosts our occupancy levels up a tick further. Keeping on the sports tourism theme, there's also the Premier Sports Complex, which is a Manatee County owned sports complex. Large soccer field complex, lacrosse, same thing. They host a lot of national tournaments at that facility. They have just announced that they are investing an additional $44 million. They just broke ground a couple weeks ago, where they're going to build out a state-of-the-art aquatic center as well as pickleball courts, just adding to bringing in pickleball events as well as competitive swimming and diving events. So they're continuing to invest in that and double down into that, and which is going to continue to bring additional guests and people to this area that just take advantage of being close to the beach, the nice weather, year-round weather where they're going to have those sports events. Another reason why Bradenton is on the top of the charts is we don't have many regulations. It's very favorable compared to other Florida cities. Our nearest city is going to be Sarasota. Sarasota has a 7-night minimum. They've been a little lax on that in the last few years. I'm definitely hearing from other hosts and owners in Sarasota that they are cracking down and starting to find people that are renting out for less than 7 nights. However, in Bradenton and Manatee County, there's no restrictions in Manatee County, and in the city of Bradenton, the only restriction they have is that you do have to obtain a license. So there's, it's not hard to go through that process. You do have to get a license, and they do restrict the guest count based on 2 guests per bedroom plus 2 for a common room. So if it's a 4-bedroom house, essentially you would be capped at 10 guests for your place. Now, the city limits of Bradenton is not that large. The majority of our successful short-term rentals in Bradenton are not within city limits. There are some successful ones in the city limits. It's just because that area is not that large. And the closer you get to the beach, that actually gets out of the city limits and you're just in unincorporated Manatee County. So if we just take a look at some of the numbers, you see the AirDNA market score of 92, very high, very favorable. And you do see over here, like this is incorporating this sub-market of what AirDNA classifies us in the Sarasota market, and Bradenton is a sub-market of the overall Sarasota market. We'll touch on where to invest in just a second. So I wouldn't say it's exclusive to just this one sub-market. We'll touch on some of those other areas here in a couple of minutes. But the numbers are strong. We're continuing to see revenue going up. Occupancy rate is continuing to increase. The average daily rate is increasing, as well as the RevPAR. We have started to see a slight reduction in the number of listings. There was obviously a huge influx post-COVID. I think in 2022, there might have been a total of 800 STRs in the Bradenton submarket. And now you can see that we're just over 2,000. I think we maxed out like a 2.3, like 2,300. So it has tailed off just a little bit. So it's a very competitive market, but the demand continues to drive it. When we look at March and you look at the market as a whole is going to be about 89 to 90% occupied as a market. And that means even the bad homes that, someone just bought a crummy house that had a pool and they put bad furniture and took a picture, that house is going to be booked in March because that's how much demand that we have. So let's talk about those key locations that work. We refer to it as Northwest Bradenton. As you are looking at a map of Bradenton, you'll see downtown Bradenton, and really you want to stay to the west and towards the beach of downtown Bradenton, primarily because that downtown area just gets really busy. It's hard to get through there. If you're on the other side, it could take 15, 20, 25 minutes to get through downtown on a busy day. And so it's just quick access to the beaches when you're on the west side of downtown. You get that 10 to 15 minute drive out to Anna Maria Island. And so the other key area is Palmasola. Palmasola is a neighborhood here in the area that is really, it just abuts to Palmasola Bay, which is what you see here in the picture here. The Palmasola neighborhood is really the last neighborhood before you get out to Anna Maria Island. This is our causeway, this is Perico Island, and then all this out here that you see is Anna Maria Island. So it's that last neighborhood, as close as you can get to the beaches and to the island without being on the island. And then on top of that, it's just a great neighborhood. When you are in this neighborhood, it doesn't feel like the rest of Bradenton. It's one of those things I can't describe why it feels that way, but when you're there, it does feel like you're kind of almost on an island in a very tropical location. It could be, there are a bunch of palm trees throughout, but it is a great neighborhood. And typically, homes here do see that they have a little bit larger of a lot, which we'll touch on, which is advantageous when we're thinking about short-term rentals and the amenities that we need. The IMG area, we touched on IMG and the number of travelers that are coming in for IMG. There's also good homes and neighborhoods around the IMG campus. So that is a good place to look and set up an STR. And you can even theme it a little bit more sports centered that way. And then kind of what I have here is the secret market or maybe the under the radar market. It's called the Whitfield area. So Whitfield, it's actually down by the Sarasota Bradenton Airport. Probably isn't where most people are going to look, but what the advantage that it has is it is a Sarasota address, but it's in Manatee County and it comes with the Manatee County regulations. So it's right on that border of Manatee County and Sarasota County. So as the city of Sarasota, and oh, by the way, Sarasota County does not allow short-term rentals. It has to be within the city limits of Sarasota. And so when guests are searching for Sarasota, which would be for Siesta Key and those markets, properties in this area are going to show up, especially when they're searching for 3, 4, 5 nights, because guests or hosts shouldn't be hosting less than 7 night stays. And so your property is going to show up as the most uh, highest up on those search results because uh, guests are looking for those 4 or 5 night stays, and it is right there convenient. So it is very nice, centrally located, right by the airport, close to Anna Maria Island, or you can go south down to Siesta Key. Now, you'll need to make sure that you're in a good neighborhood there. As you get south and near the airport, it's good. There are some areas that I would recommend to stay away from, and we'll touch on those now. So, where do you avoid? Obviously, neighborhoods with HOA. In West Bradenton or Northwest Bradenton, there's a handful of neighborhoods or subdivisions that are nice neighborhoods, great places to live, but they do have restrictions and do not allow short-term rentals. So you just need to be aware of that when you're looking. Not everything in West Bradenton can be a short-term rental. Lakewood Ranch, uh, is a very, very large master planned, huge community. Um, it is a beautiful place to live. Plenty of golf courses, private golf courses, biking trails, beautiful. But there's no short-term rentals in Lakewood Ranch. They're all in HOA neighborhoods with all of the restrictions. And then South Bradenton. And so South Bradenton is really as you're going down US 41, it's really before you get to the airport. It's just an area that um, typically you're not going to find a good home in that area anyways. It's probably homes of lower value and just maybe the areas that you probably want to avoid. We don't see any really successful short-term rentals in that space. So when you're looking in Bradenton, what should you be looking for winning STR property? Location is key. Again, the majority of people coming to the area are coming for the beaches, and so we have to have some level of proximity to the beach, as well as around dining and maybe other attractions like we talked about the IMG campus or some of those other attractions. Amenities. One of the things that will help, right, is having a pool is kind of a given. People are coming to Florida to be outside, so you do have to have a pool. If you find a house with a pool, that means you can go to market quicker because you just have to come in and do the design and furnish your property, and so it's a lot quicker. Although there are some very good opportunities if you can handle the carrying cost of holding the property for 4 or 5 months while you build out the pool. Pools are typically going for 50 to 60,000 for a pool with a heater right now. That does not include the cage. I don't recommend the cage for vacation rentals. But there are some good opportunities because you can find a good home that has the layout that you need, maybe a 4 bedroom home on, a third of an acre that has the footprint to be a great short-term rental. But it's going to take a little bit more time because you do have to come in, design the pool, get the pool built in, and wait for that. But it does create that long-term opportunity because you're also going to get in at a lower cost. Additionally, the lot size. And so as we're seeing more and more professional investors coming into Bradenton, the level of experience that's being provided to the guest is improving. So you see on the right here, this is the type of design that, maybe 2, 3 years ago you didn't need, and you don't have to have it today. But if you don't, you'll fall in at the average of the pack. And if you're, spending 700,000 or 800,000 on a 4 bedroom house, and you have a normal design, you might bring in $100,000. But if you really elevate that design and the experience that you're providing to your guests, then you'll get up to that 150,000 mark or even higher, depending upon the amenities that you provide. And so the larger lot sizes allows you to put in those different outdoor spaces that really help drive the revenue, whether that's a turf putting green, a fire pit area. The tiki cabanas do really well here. They're very attractive. Think about people coming from cold climates or from the north, and you can come and have these tiki huts that you get to hang out under, or maybe have an outdoor bar. Those do really well. And then one of the things that's really we're seeing a lot more of now are pickleball courts. Probably 3 years ago, there might have been one pickleball court. Now I have 3 homes that have pickleball courts. I know of at least a dozen others. And so if you can find a place that has the lot size to incorporate that in, it just adds more value and more experiences for the guests. Typically, we put a basketball hoop on that as well, so you get the pickleball plus the basketball experience. And so you want to find something that has the layout that you need. A lot of times, one of the challenges, and I think we'll touch on that next. Yeah, one of the challenges, this isn't a second home market. This is not where people buy their second homes. Out on Anna Maria Island, it certainly is, but this really is a residential area. And so if you want to have a successful short-term rental in this area, you're typically not buying an existing short-term rental. We're starting to see a few of them come back to the market because the owners have got that good appreciation since buying in maybe 2020 or 21, and they're doing good. They haven't taken it to the level that it can get to. So once in a while, those will pop up and creates good opportunity. But for the most part, you have to be able to see what would make that good short-term rental and you'd have to come in and really build out that experience. Sometimes that means you're completely taking out the floors, putting in the luxury vinyl plank. You can pretty much count on needing to paint, put in the wallpaper, even some murals or feature walls, whatever it might be. And so it really is getting to that point of, if you want to make it to the top of the, let's say that top 75th or 90th percentile for your bedroom count, then you do need to come in with that mindset that you're going to invest in a property. And it is becoming a very seasoned market. And so it almost does require that professional design and those professional amenities. You can't just buy a pool home, put IKEA furniture in it or Facebook Marketplace furniture, take some pictures, and expect it to give you that 15, 20, 25 and higher percent cash on cash returns. Again, you can certainly cover your cost if you're looking at this market as a second home location. There are certainly some people that do that. It's just not primarily that use. But if you want to have a successful short-term rental, we definitely want to make sure that you have the mindset that you're going to come in and invest into that property. The other challenge is because of the notoriety that we've gotten, because we are on these investor lists for short-term rentals, good properties go fast, especially the ones that are kind of like a no-brainer. You can see it's a big house, 4 or 5 bedrooms, has a pool on a third of an acre. Those are going within a couple days. So really, you need to make sure that you're working with a realtor that is on top of the market, that is aware of that. You have all of your ducks in a row, you have your pre-approval, and that you're ready to put offers in because good properties are going quickly. Now, if you are an investor that can take a BRRRR approach where you can do the buy, renovate, remodel, refinance, rent it out, there are still some good ones that have a lot of value add opportunities that will sit on the market a little bit longer. But in general, there's a lot of eyes on this market. And so when a good property does come up, you have to be ready and move quickly. So I don't know, we've been talking for 20 minutes and we haven't really talked about Anna Maria Island yet from an investment perspective. And why is that? Well, let's touch on that. So Anna Maria Island is broken up into 3 cities or townships. On the very north end of Anna Maria Island, you have the city of Anna Maria. In the middle section, which is where Manatee Avenue or State Route 64 goes west out to the beach, that is Holmes Beach. And then a little bit further south, you have Cortez Road that goes out to the beach. So the southern end of Anna Maria Island is Bradenton Beach. Each of those jurisdictions have their own set of regulations that you need to be aware of. Anna Maria Island does not have a minimum night stay. However, they have recently introduced regulation that has capped the number of guests at 8, no matter if it's a 4-bedroom or a 9-bedroom property. The challenge with new investors coming to Anna Maria, I'll step back. If you already own on Anna Maria Island, you're golden. If you're a new investor, it's tough because you can't just buy the 4, 5, 6-bedroom house, sleep 16 people because they don't allow it. One of the great things about investing in Florida is that the Florida Constitution has something that essentially protects the homeowner's right to use their property in a way that fits within the laws and regulations at the time that you purchased it. And so the city of Bradenton or Manatee County, if you're thinking about worried about restrictions or regulations, if you own a property in Manatee County and in 2 years, Manatee County decides that they want to ban short-term rentals, you are grandfathered in perpetuity based on the Florida Constitution to protect your property rights as a homeowner, that they cannot infringe upon the rights that you already had. They can't take those away from you. So the challenge with new investors coming to Anna Maria Island and on the city of Anna Maria specifically is that people that owned these large properties prior to are grandfathered in. And so you can go out there and search Airbnb or Vrbo for 16 guests, and you're going to get a number of homes that show up because those properties have been grandfathered in because they were operating as vacation rentals prior to the regulations coming in. Holmes Beach, it's the most complicated. They have different regulations by their different zones that they have. But in general, it is a 7-night minimum. So you have to do the week-long rentals. They don't specify check-in and check-out days. Typically, you do see a Saturday to Saturday or Sunday to Sunday. Same that it is a 4-bedroom max. They don't limit. Haven't found anything that says that they limit the number of guests, but it is a 4-bedroom max. And then there is this very small beachfront zone. It's their A1 zone where there's no nightly minimums. That's typically where the little hotels or beachfront cottages are located. Very compact. There are a handful of single-family homes in that zone that do not have nightly minimums. And then we have Bradenton Beach. Bradenton Beach is the least restrictive. There's no nightly minimums. They do just have a limit on the number of guests, which is 2 per bedroom plus 2 for a common room. So you can find that 5 or 6-bedroom home and sleep 12 to 14 guests. So it's the least restrictive. If you are looking for the higher end property that will get 10, 12% returns, Bradenton Beach will do that for you. The entry point, you're going to be in the 1.5 to 2 million just to get into a good property on Anna Maria Island, and it obviously goes up from there. This is a great lifestyle asset market for all the reasons we talked about and the people coming to the beaches. Again, the entry point is much higher, so it's not, I wouldn't say it's an investor. If you're a short-term rental investor, it's probably not a good place to invest. It's great for developers. But it is a great place for lifestyle assets. The homes out here will do anywhere between $185,000, up to $350,000 or $400,000 in gross revenue per year. In the waterfronts, will do even more than that. So don't mark it off your list, especially if you're looking at a lifestyle asset that can also be a cash flowing short-term rental. So we talked about Bradenton. I'm just one of many on the Savvy STR team. So if Bradenton isn't for you, we do have agents throughout the country and a lot of the different markets that you might be interested in. And so, feel free to reach out. I can get you connected with them. And this list is always growing. Our director of expansion, Trish, has been doing a great job of finding the top talent, people that all have short-term rental experience. If you're looking at this list, everybody on here is either a short-term rental owner or also has a co-hosting business, and most people like myself we have both. So a lot of short-term rental experience in these different markets. So if you'd like to connect with me, if you have interest in the Bradenton market, want to learn a little bit more, you want to set up a call and find time to chat, you can scan this QR code. It will take you to my calendar where you can book a call. You see my email address there as well as my phone number. Feel free to shoot me a text. But if we want to sit down, have a 30-minute conversation, or if you're like, you know what, Rich, I want to be in Bradenton. Let's find that place. Scan the QR code. We'll get a call set up. Understand what your buy box is, what you're looking for, and we will try to find you that good property and be ready when the good properties do come on the market. So with that, let's take a look at questions. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. I'll try to scan back through the web chat. I do see John asked a question. Is this a market that you can get into with 125,000 for down closing and furnishings? Yes, John. So especially if you can take advantage of a second home 10% down loan, right? So think about from that perspective, you can find we didn't talk about bedroom counts. Let me touch on that real quick. So in my opinion, you can be successful at any bedroom count in Bradenton. And the reason is because the majority, the most bedroom count properties is 3 bedrooms. However, when you look at the 3 bedrooms, the professional investors haven't been coming in at that bedroom count. So the majority of them don't have high level design. They don't have all the great amenities outside. There is one 3 bedroom. They're getting 12 people in there for sleeping. They have a pickleball court. They've done a great job. They're doing like 175,000 a year. So it doesn't have to be a 4 bedroom. It can be a 3 bedroom, and it can have a smaller footprint. You can do 85,000 a year. You can do 125, depending upon how you build it out and how you operate. But to answer your question, John, yes, you can get into it if you have 125,000 in cash ready to invest, and you can take advantage of that 10% down. You can kind of back into the math of what that purchase price is versus the amenity build out that you might need, again, depending upon the property and what your goals might be. Travers, what is the concern these days with the increase in insurance based on the increase in hurricanes? How is this offset? Higher ADRs across the board. Good question. Obviously, we are just 6 months, about maybe not even that, from the 2 hurricanes that hit us this year, which were the 2 worst events that we've seen in probably recordable history. The first one was the Hurricane Helene that just went straight up the Gulf Coast. We didn't get wind damage from that, but based on where it was at, we had a lot of flooding. Anna Maria Island took on a lot of water and a lot of sand. The city of Bradenton, only some of the very coastal areas that are along the river or along water areas got any water, but in general, Bradenton was fine from that. And then we obviously had, I don't even remember the name of the one that hit direct. So you can drop it in the chat if you want to, but we did get a lot of wind damage, primarily just a lot of debris and trees, and a lot of our big banyan trees got blown over because they have very shallow root systems. But again, we're still coming out of that. I have gotten insurance quotes recently. They haven't gone up. I think it's one of those things, like if you listen to national influencers or national talking people, they're going to scream about, higher insurance premiums, whatever it might be. I haven't seen that. What I have seen is if you are in a flood zone and you do have flood insurance, that has gone up over the last 3 years. My house that I live in personally is in a flood zone. We're built up, so the house itself, as well as all of our, AC and everything, is above the flood level. When we bought it a few years ago, our flood insurance I think was $1,200 a year. I got my renewal last year and it was like 2,500, and I've never filed a claim even after all the flooding that we got in our neighborhood. So on the flood insurance side, I am seeing those increases. So that's just something to consider as you're looking, if you are looking in any of those areas that are in flood zones. And there's different levels of the flood zones as well. And so, keep that in mind. Kate, are pickleball courts allowed pretty much everywhere? No noise issues with neighbors? Good question. There are no restrictions. You do not require a permit to build a pickleball court. If you decide that you wanted to do lights and do electric, then you would need to get an electric permit to get that electric run out for your lights. Um, the house that I own that has a pickleball court, we don't have lights, partially because we do want to be good neighbors. We don't want to create a scenario where guests are out there at 9:30, 10 o'clock playing pickleball. It is a noisy sport with the paddles. Um, I was over, you know, at a house where they were playing pickleball. It's not that bad. I haven't had any complaints at my houses that we have the pickleball courts, so they are allowed. There are a few areas where we are getting some in the city of Bradenton, there's been some complaints, and that's kind of led to some of the restrictions that they've had. And that wasn't pickleball court related; it was just kind of more parking, which was more downtown area where it just didn't have the off-street parking. So, in general, no, there's no restrictions on building pickleball courts. Are permits easy to come by? How long to obtain a permit? Again, permits are only needed within the city of Bradenton city limits. Those city limits are a little squirrely. It's not easy to define, but in general, they do not go beyond 51st Street West. And even then, it kind of zigzags, and there's some pockets where it's not. As an example, I have a property that I manage on 37th Street West, which is not in city limits, but I have two on 51st Street West that are in city limits. So it's just a little weird in the way that the city limits go. And those owners were able to get their permits. It took maybe 3 weeks. It doesn't take long. It's really just giving them the floor plan. You have to mark your emergency exits, have the fire extinguisher, those things that you should be doing anyways. You are required to do those if you are within the city limits of Bradenton. So very easy to get. There's not a limit. There's not a cap on those. It's just they want you to register. So they do have that information in their system. Nicole, why do you recommend not having a pool cage? Um, I would say like for me, I'm not originally from Florida. I'm from the Midwest, St. Louis originally. We've been down here 10 years. I don't like the pool cages. I don't like the way that they look. Um, I just it for the homes that you see, especially even from a marketability standpoint, imagine those hero images that you get taking over your backyard with you spend a lot of time to build out, a turf area and cool outdoor amenities and your cornhole space and fire pit, beautiful pool, but then you have this big black cage hovering over your pool. It doesn't photograph well. And from an experience standpoint, when guests are coming down for 4 nights or 5 nights or 7 nights, um, you know, they don't need it. I should say, why do we have the cages here? It is for that Florida lifestyle living. So this time of year, when our high temperatures are 78, we get down into the 60s at night. We have these big triple sliders. It is nice to open those up, and you can kind of just walk in and out. And you go out to the pool, walk into the house. Windows are open, sliders are open, and those do keep the bugs out from that space. And so they don't get in the house. You can have all those things open. However, from a short-term rental perspective, vacation, I think the experience of having a pool without a cage outweighs, any issue you might have with a no-see-um or some kind of bug that might be buzzing around. And there's some other things that you can do to offset those as well. Hope that answers your question. Nicole, I see you also asked about the average insurance coverage costs. Obviously, it's going to be very property specific. I'll answer it in a way that is, if you go to proper, they're going to like proper insurance, like they're going to be most expensive no matter what market you're in or the type of property. But I will say that it's very reasonable for both my personal home and then for my short-term rental that's also here. So I live in Bradenton, also have short-term rentals in Bradenton, and the insurance on those is marginally higher. As an example, I'll give you what I'm paying. I have a 5 bedroom, 4 bath, 3,000 square foot, has the pickleball court, pool. We have short-term rental insurance on it. We're paying like 6,200 a year for that. Let's see if there's any other questions maybe I missed. Yeah. All right, Travers. As a guy from Miami, it was all about mosquito protection. Yep, I agree. And keeping crabs out when living on a canal. Yeah, we typically don't have that. In Miami, I know you also have the iguanas. We're far enough north, we don't have iguanas. Some people might say this to keep the gators out. I've lived here for 10 years. The only time I've seen an alligator is when I'm playing golf and it's a lake or a pond on a golf course. But we don't see them. Now, we also make the assumption that if there's water, fresh water, there's a gator in it. So we also make that assumption. So we don't assume there's not a gator. We assume there is a gator. But as far as seeing them, really I only see them on golf courses. Okay. Well, we'll give you a couple more seconds if there's any other last minute questions that come in. Alana, yes, thanks for the question. What is your favorite thing about the area? Why do people want to visit? And are there any future developments or changes coming to the area? It's a great question. So the reason we moved here and it was unrelated to short-term rentals was we just wanted to come down to the weather. I was personally tired of the Midwest and the weather changes that you would get. It was not cold enough where you were had a full season of winter and snow. You'd get snow and then it would melt and it's muddy and it's gross and then it freezes and it melts and it's awful. So here, the worst thing I have to deal with is 92 degrees and humidity, and that's bearable. Um, and then the occasional hurricane, but you quickly forget about that. And honestly, it's coming. With a tornado in the Midwest, it pops up. You have minutes to react. Hurricane, a week before it gets here, you just have to take the precautions. But my favorite thing about the area, obviously, is the weather. The beaches are beautiful. It's a very chill and laid back part of Florida. Definitely a different culture and vibe from the East Coast, the Atlantic coast of Florida, which is probably a little more high energy. Was it Travers? You can probably speak to that. Probably a little more high energy in South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. It's very laid back here. Anna Maria Island itself does not allow multi-level high-rise condos or hotels. So they're trying to keep it a very kind of just an old beach town, beach village vibe to it. So it's great to go out to the beach. Um, and so really it's a place where you can come and enjoy the weather. And that's what the travelers do. Is we'll get, some of our large houses, people come down, they're just hosting their family vacations or I'm sorry, their family reunions, all coming together from different parts of Florida or across the country. And that's why it's important to build out an experience at your home because some people are just going to come and stay at the house and experience it. And maybe 1 out of 4 days they'll go out to the beach, but they're really going to just come hang out at the pool, use the court, use the outside amenities, whatever it might be. John, do the red tide outbreaks affect revenue? Um, for Bradenton, so let me step back. So red tide, we typically will only see that in that August, September, October, that early fall. That's our low season. And so those are the months where, we're really looking to break even or maybe make a little bit. And so those are our low months. So I would say no, it doesn't. And also because we are off the island, we don't get the red tide smell. In Bradenton. Obviously, people might not want to go out to the beach, but also red tide is also very localized. So at the north end of the island, there might be a red tide outbreak, and it kind of has that pungent smell because some of the fish have died or you can't get in the water. But you can go to the south end of Anna Maria Island and you're fine. Likewise, you can go down to Siesta Key or you can go up to St. Pete Beach. So it hasn't really affected us. It's just more one of those things that travelers do ask about in a lot of the Facebook groups. But as locals, um, we had one season where it was kind of bad, but it's not really something that we talk about or affects us. You kind of just check to see what the beach forecast is when you're making your plans. Alana, I want to trade my Charleston, South Carolina, and into another beach market. Yeah, this is a great place. I think one of the things that people need to be aware of as you're thinking about this is like we're probably beach adjacent. We're not going to walk to the beach from Bradenton. Anna Island, certainly you're walking to the beach. Bradenton, it is going to be getting in the car and driving 10 to 15 minutes. But again, yeah, it is a great place. People are coming to go to the beach. They know they're going to have to get in their car anyways, probably to drive to the beach. So they're willing to drive that 10 to 15 miles. And, a week on Anna Maria Island is going to cost them 15, 20,000 for the week. At a 4 or 5 bedroom house where off the island, might be 6 or 7 thousand for the week. So really good numbers as an investor and, save some money for the guests. All right. I haven't seen any other questions come in. So I appreciate all the questions. I appreciate the interactiveness of it. Again, you have the QR code. My email is rich@savvy.realty. If you'd like to connect and maybe even just get on a list or kind of a list of my hand-picked properties that I'm going through every morning and looking to see what is a good fit for a short-term rental. I kind of have my own link where you can go and view those. So if you want access to that, set up a call. We'll talk about what your goals are and can get you looking at those. And look forward to chatting with some of you. Hope you found this informational. I appreciate it, and we will be in touch. Thank you.